Hey everyone, welcome to Powertime. Let's have a listen to what's on today's show.
Captain Kirk doesn't pull out a keyboard, right? Yeah, well, maybe, and it's not really a question of if, but when. When the technology catches up with it all, and we're already seeing in Windows these new Copilot plus PC, solutions coming out. Well, that's the beginning of the next generation of PCs that they're literally just going to talk to you, and you're going to be like, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah, oh no, move that. Oh, can you send an email to Scott and tell him that I'm running late? Yeah.
Let's get into it.
It's power time. Get ready, let's go. Unlocking secrets that leaders should know. Innovation strategy leading the way. Power time is here to stay.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. It's Scott here from Powertime, joined with Matt, my co-host. Matt, a bit of a cameo in the news this week. Maybe we should jump into that straight away. Bit surprised when I saw you on TV. So now you're a movie star as well as a podcast star. That's awesome.
Yeah, getting my own agent to manage my diary these days and stuff like that. But yeah, I did make an appearance in the news, and I did get probably about 100 messages because I was on 7, 9, 10, the project.
You're on all of them, right?
All of them, all of them. Yeah. I just had this Channel 10 person. Funny story. Well, not really a funny story. It's quite a scary story, actually. So I've got an acai bowl addiction at the moment. I have like a weekly addiction where I'll eat something every day. And this was like an acai bowl thing. So I ordered an acai bowl at about 6 o'clock at night to my apartment, walked downstairs, saw the Uber Eats driver or Uber Eats guy running like Usain Bolt away from me. And I was like, first off, that's a problem. Okay. I'm like, what's going on here? I want my acai bowl. I'm over here. Then I see this guy with 2 massive hunting knives chasing him. So hence why he probably made the right decision to run away. And my acai bowl went out the window, and I was more worried about his life, obviously. I didn't even think. It was like a split-second thing. But yeah, I don't even know why I did it, but I'm glad I did it because it could have got a lot worse. But yeah, if anyone wants to see it, just Google, I think it was West Leaderville knife attack or something like that. You'll find some articles and videos.
It is, wow.
Me getting interviewed after a gym session. So Channel 9 wouldn't even let me have a shower. I was coming back from the gym and I was all sweaty. And so I'm on TV. So yeah, there we go.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it all turned out okay for everyone. That's a really serious incident. And
100%.
Yeah, there you go.
And my acai bowl was delivered safe and sound at the end. So it was a good day for everyone. Wow. So I did manage to still get that. It was a bit melted, but given the situation, I was willing to accept it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, when they asked you what you do for a living, did you say that you're a podcast host on Powertime and just try and capitalize on a few more listeners?
I felt like I was cheating on you when Channel 9 was there. I was like, I need my podcast buddy here as well when I was getting interviewed on the news. So I did.
Not to make joke of a serious situation, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm glad everyone, no one really got harmed and all of that kind of stuff. It was really lucky in the end. But yeah, crazy. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't expect that stuff in Australia. I got back from Los Angeles and you'd probably expect more of that stuff over there. And I didn't see any of that. But I think it was day 3 coming back to Perth. So not good.
So you've had a crazy week, right? So PowerPack Conference was on, and we'll get into that in a minute. So that was a pretty full on week. I've already had breakfast with Lisa Crosby and got her kind of breakdown on it this week as well, and a few others that have been on the PowerPack Conference. I've had updates from Nathan and Jack, who went over as well from our teams. So it sounds like it was a really successful event. 6,000 people in Vegas. A lot of new launches of product and things like that. One in particular was PowerUps Planner, which I'm keen to talk to you about as well. But we're introducing a brand new segment on the show today, which we're really keen to call AI News. So AI News is really just a quick 15 seconds on what's happened in the industry that I wanted to go over. Then we'll get into the PowerPack Conference, bit of a discussion around what we're seeing new at the moment, because a lot of excitement. I mean, whilst you're over PowerPack Conference or in Vegas, the new GPT-01 model dropped, and I must say I've been using it a lot. I can't believe how intelligent that is and how good that is. So that's phenomenal. There's a lot of work going on right now around voice. So I'm seeing some remarkable kind of voice cloning technology like Resembler AI and things like that, which are doing some incredible stuff around AI detection and replicating voices and things like that. We had the advanced voice come out for ChatGPT, and of course, voice enabled for Copilot Studio as well. So I thought, looking at this kind of technology, one can only say that, it won't be long before people will be interacting a lot more with voice, and the world will change.
Yeah.
So off the back of that, we've had a lot of people in podcasts now sort of saying that the new disruptor is the contact center. So Microsoft's released their answer to that, which is their customer service offering, contact center as a service in the cloud, which is CCaaS, I think for short, is what we're all calling it right now. So if anyone hasn't seen that, check it out. My team is all over it at the moment, and a lot of customers are asking about it. So I think, at the moment, it's really heating up. GPT 5.0 looks like it's set soon for release. Not sure exactly when, but it looks like they're going through testing from the research I've kind of seen at the moment. That promises another 5x or 10x increase in capability as well. So it's really heating up right now. I just see all of these kind of things bubbling up all over the place. It's going to be an interesting bit of time. So we'll get into PowerPack Conference a bit now, Matt, but what was the feeling around kind of AI technology and things like that through the concert or through the conference? Yeah. I'm assuming you probably went to a concert as well, maybe a few, and
I did.
Maybe we'll hear a bit of the Vegas after hours, but
I don't know if we can, Scott, but anyway.
yeah, a bit X-rated or R-rated, is it? So
we had a good time.
It is Vegas after all, but yeah, look, let's have a chat a bit about that, mate. What was the feeling? What was, so many people PowerPack aligned in one place? How did you find it?
Yeah, my favorite part of those events and conferences is really interacting with people that you only see once a year. Yeah. And you have these great conversations and discussions about, where the technology is going, where the platform is going. I caught up with my buddy Bert, who was on our first podcast as well. Shout out to Bert Vince. He's a regular listener of the podcast.
Yeah.
So I caught up with him, which was great. Had a great dinner with Justin Graham, again, a friend of the podcast, was on our last podcast.
He's definitely a friend of the podcast. If you're listening, Justin, a big shout out to you.
Yeah, he's a great guy and a friend now as well. So I really enjoyed that. He took me to the best steak restaurant I've ever been to in my life. So thanks again, Justin. We'll have to go to that one next year.
I got FOMO
as well.
FOMO.
Had a really good session with Ryan. Me and Ryan can talk about Power Platform for hours. Ryan's just
hang on, Ryan, you better clarify.
Ryan Cunningham.
Yes. Yep.
I put me in a room with Ryan, and then his EA had to come in and kick us out because I was still chatting about all this kind of stuff. And yeah, that was a great conversation. And we might have a bit of a plug here. Ryan will actually be on our next podcast, Scott. So, which is also
I don't think it's our next one, is it? It'll be
one of the one.
It might be the next one. It'll be before. Let's say before Christmas. Yeah. We're endeavoring to get Ryan on the pod.
We're in discussions now with Ryan, so which will be great because he's someone that
that's great. Yeah,
someone that I've always sort of respected, and he's just a brilliant presenter, brilliant communicator.
Oh, he's amazing,
intelligent guy who's also running intelligent apps. So it's a really good segue to come in and chat to Ryan. So I'll plug that one. That one is potentially coming, which is good. But yeah, that's sort of the main sort of initial from a relationship standpoint is catching up with all the people in the community. I really enjoy that and interacting and having those great deep conversations. From a technology standpoint, I think one of the key sort of three outputs of the conference was that Copilot is moving towards multimodal when it comes to not just interacting it with via a chat, but being able to interact it with just sort of voice and screen recordings, images, all of this kind of stuff. So that's something that you'll start to see. And Scott, you just mentioned at the start of the podcast about using voice in Copilot Studio. Again, it's going to be interesting how we're using that in the office. I think that's something that we probably need to delve into. I think we spoke about it with Greg on the podcast about these offices and us interacting with all of these voice agents moving forward.
I'm really excited. at voice, right? So if you use any interactive app, I'll give an example. We're away on holiday with the kids and it was in Mildura, actually, a country town in Victoria, Australia. And we're heading from there in the morning early, towing a caravan back home to Melbourne. And so I wanted to grab a quick coffee and a bite to eat. So the obvious choice in a country town for something predictable like that is usually Macca's at 6 a.m. in the morning when you're leaving. So I go in there, there's no one at the counter, and I've got to use the touchboard stuff. I've never used it before. And I'm sitting there punching away going, wow, if we had ChatGPT voice, I could literally just order this food in 2 seconds and have it select.
Hang on, you're giving me a good business idea, Scott. Let's shelf this idea.
Well, there's one for McDonald's, right? Like they could literally turn on ChatGPT voice that could
this is copyrighted.
Control that. It would be amazing, right? So, and I thought there's a great example of an interactive application that people use on a daily basis to order and select food. That it's a great app, right? Like it's on this big board, it's an LCD screen, you can just touch what food you want. But it's slow and it's hard. And if you're in a rush, you just want to talk to someone. I think AI, So I think AI voice is really exciting because it's going to play a big role in these kind of interactive apps and kind of bridge the gap with humans and technology.
But how is it going to be adopted in an office, in a shared open workspace? I'm really curious about this. Are we going to be wearing helmets or, you know what I mean? Or what are we going to be doing to try and, it's really
I'll show
interesting.
my age now. Remember Maxwell Smart or what it was? Smart, and they had the cone of silence. It comes down.
That's what his shoe phone. Is that what we're going to be using to talk to our Copilot?
Just hit a button and this glass thing will come over our heads.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Like how, if people are going to be, it could be like they're on the phone, but so I could be overthinking this, but
Look, think about this. I think a lot of things are going to change over the next few years. I mean, you've got Oculus that dropped, then their new, glasses and things like this that have just come through. Very cool, right? Cool. Like, and myself, I bought a version 3 like 2 weeks ago, and I was surprised at how good the quality is now on VR and the pass through and all of these kind of stuff. You've got Apple Vision that's released. And
Meta,
so, all of these kind of
Meta have some new glasses coming out that were meant to be pretty cool.
That's the ones I was talking about. The Meta glasses that just dropped. So apparently they only released 1,000 of these glasses because the average cost to build was $10,000. So they've got to get the cost down, right, on these things. But it's a vision kind of statement to go, this is the future. So to answer your question, I think office spaces will probably change. If we're using voice to communicate to our technology and we're using more mixed reality, the phone booth, the classic phone booth when you go to the office, this is going to become more popular. And there's some people that just won't do that. They'll still use a keyboard and mouse. It's choice, right? It's all about choice.
It is super interesting, but we are at this wave now about where this stuff's going. So for a bit of a techo nerd like myself and probably yourself as well, it's really exciting. So
So what else happened at PowerPack Conference?
The next one.
Anything? You've got some insider information? Anything dropped that was super exciting?
Not that I can.
Planner. Let's talk about that.
Before I talk about Planner, I want to talk about Copilot agents, and that is something that me and you have been talking about for some time. Charles and I actually flew over for a session in September, a quick in and out, and presented to kind of a select audience on agents. And ever since then, I have seen the light. I think this is going to be the biggest disruptor in technology that we've seen for some time when it comes to having these sort of digital employees or agents that work alongside us in the background.
I was going to say,
that's the kind of way.
What is an agent? And how is it framed?
So think of an agent as someone that, it's almost like, would you describe it as a digital employee, Scott? Almost like working with you, and that's kind of the way that you have to interact with this agent as part of it, that basically can deliver tasks autonomously in the background. You no longer have to trigger these by text. There's over, I think, 1,400 pre-triggers that are already available within Copilot Studio for us to use and consume with these agents. But again, think of all the stuff like, I hate admin. Like everyone that knows me knows I'm A, shocking at admin, but B, I neglect. So I like to do all the fun things and all of that kind of stuff. So having like my own Matt agent, I think Justin spoke about it a little bit on our last podcast about the Justin agent. And
did we not say that the world's not ready for a Matt bot yet? Is that
maybe, especially I am a crime saver.
It's coming. We can't stop it.
We can't stop it. It's too late. But having a agent that can handle my tasks and all of this kind of stuff within my workplace is the first one. And then having multiple agents interacting with each other as well is kind of the vision that Charles is obviously looking to portray. From a personal note, having a Matt agent in my personal life to go, hey, I would like to book dinner tonight. These are my food preferences. Bang. But understand my preferences, what I want to do, all of that kind of stuff. I think this stuff is amazing. And I think Scott, we've spoken about it regularly.
I think it's it's the flex, isn't it, into, at the moment, the way that we deal with ChatGPT is, we ask it a question, it gives us an answer. So it's the flex into actionable AI. Let's go tell it to go do something. It'll process that. It will take its time. It'll think through it. O1's kind of like the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Let's go think through a process and go and execute on that and then come back with an answer.
Yeah.
So I think this is extremely exciting. So if you play this out, what is the world going to look like in a few years? If I'm a developer and I'm developing an application, my job is to control 20 agents to go and build.
Correct.
I'll go build the UI, go build the data model, go build this or go build that. Or I might have an AI that I go, this is what would like to create. And here is the data model, here is this, and here is this, similar to what we're doing with Planner and Low Code. And I think we're starting to see some cool demos, right? So I was talking to one of the lead senior architects, Christoph, in our innovation hub out of Sydney, and we were talking a lot through this notion of agents and how we can now use large language models to go and do a task and separate that data out to multiple agents and get a much better result than if we were just putting everything into the one large language model. So we're starting to think through how to use these language models, how to leverage them, how to use them in a chat format better, how to weave conversations through them, and it's starting to get really, really smart on what it can handle. So, incredibly exciting to watch this play out, and the role of the first party app, it's interesting, right? Like, where does it land?
Yeah. You can kind of see where this is all going. Yeah, that's like kind of the next foray into sort of artificial intelligence. And again, if anyone hasn't looked at that video, I think it's available easily online. I think it's the OpenAI 0.1 Squirrel game. I think look into that one. That was pretty cool.
Okay. I had a great example with O1 in the last couple of weeks, and this is going to get a little bit not technical, but a little bit specific to the problem that I was working on. And this is a great use case, right? So, as everyone knows, I'm restoring an old RX-7, or if you don't, you do now. And they're 40 years old. It's an old vehicle. It has an old what's called rotary engine in those, which is it's pretty unique to a few countries, but not unique, not wide known to everyone. And certainly being such an old engine, there's not a lot of mechanics that know a lot about them anymore. And I was faced with, as I'm looking to assemble the engine, I've got 3 different types of inlet manifolds I can use, and the engine's been what's called bridge ported. So it's a very specific race port that's been done for that engine. And if anyone listening in knows what I'm talking about, kudos to you. Send me a note, because it's be great to have a chat offline on your thoughts on this stuff. But what I was faced with these 3 different types of inlet models is, based on a turbo engine, based on 3 different manifolds that have a different CFM that flow through those throttle bodies, that they're all 3 different sizes, based on fuel injectors, based on the boost that the turbo is going to run, based on the porting on the engine. And remember, this is a rotary engine, not a traditional piston engine. Which manifold should I use? And I threw all of this stuff into O1, and I was shocked. It came back with the predicted horsepower of the bridge port, with the boost, with the timing, with the amount of CFM that I need. And on top of that, gave me an indication of how much actual, CFM I would need, and it then recommended which manifold I should use to give me the best performance on that engine. And I thought, there is no way, like, I could go and ask 10,000 mechanics, they wouldn't know the answer to that, right? I sent a very specific engine. And I did as much checking as I could with people that know things on these engines, and it was really accurate. It was really accurate. It solved the problem. I was just shocked that it could answer that. So that's a real world example. And another great example was creating a GPT and putting every RX-7 manual into that, so I can just query it now. Yeah, that's great as well. So old school meets new school, and all these things. So it's
very excited.
Just going to be an incredible thing.
I did receive a phone call from Scott saying how excited and how cool and all of this kind of stuff about this exact story. Yeah. So I can attest to his level of excitement and amazement and all of that kind of stuff. But it is cool. It is truly groundbreaking. And again, we're only just scratching the surface. And that's what makes this all really exciting for everyone in technology at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, Matt. So you got a chance to catch up with everyone in Vegas. Any kind of new stuff you want to talk about, or we just get straight into Planner? Because I'm keen to talk about this.
They're the three. The agent stuff is something that really focusing on at the moment, and I kind of took my distraction as a bit of a shiny toy, as I always do. But yeah, like I say, I kind of see the writing on the wall. Charles has restructured the business at Microsoft, industry co-pilots, all of this kind of stuff, agents, agentic experiences. I'm seeing all the buzzwords come out. So yeah, I think agents is something that, and CCAS is obviously something that wasn't presented at that. They're the two biggest focus of myself probably at the moment. But Ryan Cunningham really brought the energy as part of the keynote. And what he was talking about is this concept of the PowerUps Plan Designer. Now, Scott, you know a bit about this as well. Have you seen this yet, or have you watched any videos? Or
Yeah. So I've seen a couple of demos, right? So this is the notion of being able to upload a data model, upload a document, and a UI design to start to plan to build an application.
Yeah.
So, and it will give you the workflow. It will use, GPT to help you create the application and think, or not the actual end app, but to create the plan for the application, right? Which is, to me, not knowing what the future roadmap is, and hopefully when we have Ryan on the show, he can talk to us about that, right?
Yeah.
To me, we're at this impasse right now, right, where truly dev apps will be built very, very quickly with language models, right?
Yeah.
That is like the contact center disrupting how we develop apps, because code is a known quantity.
Yeah.
And GPT models are very good at writing code as long as you tell it what to do. I think the amount of time it takes to build an app, we've already proven that we can do that between 60 and 70% more effectively with Copilot for GitHub. So going to agents will make this extremely fast and effective.
Yeah.
I think in the same way that's happening over there with pro code, we need to do that with low code, which is how can I move into a prompt-like design to be able to create the app end to end?
Yeah.
I see Planner as kind of the beginning of that.
Yeah.
To the point is, I haven't seen a pro code version of this either.
No.
So there's probably a startup out there that could look at Planner and go, hey, I'll build this for Java, or I'll build this for something, because it's really gold, right?
The podcast. There you go. To more listeners, Scott's got.
Yeah, there's another unicorn idea right there, right? So many of them, right? But I think, at the end of the day, for people, it's, I've got a business problem I need to solve.
Yeah.
How can I translate that into technology and get an outcome from that? And is it an app even, or is it a chatbot? I mean, that's kind of the jury's out on that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I can have a natural conversation with what looks like a developer and lay out what I think that app should look like and build that app, that's a huge acceleration on what we have today, where most of that's a manual process.
The plan,
which you would know that, right? Because your team do this every day, right?
They do. Yeah. The plan designer would be helpful, because it actually comes up with a project plan, I think, at the end of this eventually as part of it. I think that's kind of the next foray. So again, it's not available publicly yet. I think I'm getting involved in the early adopter program. Well, I will be, especially now. Well, I'll ask Ryan when I get him on the podcast.
I think it would make sense, right? Yeah, if you can get your hands on it early and out and give us a bit of a review on the podcast, it'd be nice.
Yeah, we got co-authoring for the first organization in Australia to get co-authoring, so that was pretty cool. And that was a bit of a fanboy moment for a lot of the team, because they were like, "Oh wow, this is amazing!" And then. Yeah, so shout out to Microsoft for helping us out on that one. That was really cool.
That's interesting. I remember Fushen, who's one of our cat team gurus, he shared with me a co-authoring experience about 2.5 years ago, maybe longer, 3 years ago.
Yeah,
on PowerUps. I don't think it ever GA'd though. But we had a bit of fun with it back then. So here we are. We've got it now.
Yeah. And all the team were really excited. I saw all the celebrations in the team chat, which was pretty cool. So. Yeah, I'll try to get my hands on that, and maybe prior to us discussion with Ryan as well, to give me a bit more insights about what I think it is and it can do and all of that kind of stuff. But we do have a special guest coming up on today, a show, as part of the Ballarat Tech Hub, as I call it now, Scott. There's a few of you now in Ballarat. You're starting this almost like Silicon Valley, describe it, or the Ballarat is the Australian Silicon Valley. But Scott, you've known Greg for a while. Do you want to kind of talk about Greg and what he does? And then from there, we probably get him on the show and have a conversation about data and fabric and stuff. But Scotty, over to you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have Greg on the show. So Greg Nash has been in the industry, well, as long as we have, right? Like super long time. I'm not going to disclose my age out on the podcast and how long I feel old enough already.
23.
But yeah. So he's been in and around data, and for a long time, that's what he does. He's been the Power BI unicorn, and helped a lot of customers out with this stuff. So it was great to get his point of view on where he thinks the role that data plays in AI. And of course, it's really fundamental. If you don't have your security policies in play, you don't have your data structure in play. What's really interesting, we're really finding out too, we had another future podcast for us is Customer Zero for Microsoft, and we'll talk more about that.
I'm excited for that one.
Future podcast, cool. But excited for that. So the Customer Zero team, which run the Microsoft Contact Center, so 145 million contacts in that contact center. I think it's 45 million cases a year, so quite large, probably the largest in the world, I think it is. So they were saying that, on their recent tour out to Australia, that you basically, if you look at knowledge base articles and data and how people answer questions, starting to think about how AI consumes that and tidying that up and looking at your data around solving problems is becoming really key. Because by feeding that into an AI model, you get such an amazing benefit to all of the people in the contact center or any of the agents in the future that would be using that data to solve problems for their customers. So, that's right now I see, it's steady as you sort of go with your infrastructure, but a lens on, are we ready for AI and agents? Do we, if we put an agent out there tomorrow, can it actually answer all the questions that we're asking it? Do we have the right structure and infrastructure and the right data models?
Yeah.
And so Greg talks a little bit about his experience around that. So really happy to have him on the show, and I think he will also be a regular speaker for us on this show moving forward. When we want to talk about data, we'll bring him on, because
Project Sophia, I reckon maybe he can be a guest presenter on that particular episode, because that's something that's really interesting, isn't it? So
So for those who haven't seen Project Sophia, jump on and have a look. It's open to the public. A really interesting project run by Julie Strauss out of Seattle and her team around an agentic experience on data as a SaaS platform. And
there's that buzzword,
it's another hot term, agentic. Agent-like experiences. So you hear a lot about that. So they're hot terms right now, agent and agentic. These are the two things that everyone's talking about right now in the industry. And, Project Sophia is kind of the first step to what, if we had to have a data-driven agentic experience, what would it look like? And it looks great. So I'm super excited about that, and, be great to get someone on the podcast to go deep on that 100%. At some point. So, So that's probably a goal for early next year, I think, Matt, to delve into that. Maybe our first podcast in January.
Done. So sounds good.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds great. All right, well, let's stop waffling, and without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Nash himself for a bit of a chat. Awesome. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Powertime podcast. I'm joined here with Greg Nash, who runs his own business and specializes in all things data and all things AI and a lot of Power BI reporting, all of the really interesting stuff, Greg. I might hand it over to you to do a bit of an intro into yourself and what you come.
Yes, thanks, Scott, and thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me. Yeah, as Scott said, my name is Greg Nash. I'm the principal consultant and founder of Dear Watson Consulting. We're a boutique kind of data and analytics consulting firm. We're based in Melbourne. We're a data and AI solution partner with Microsoft. And we really specialize. We started in the Power BI world, and we specialize in sort of all things Power BI, Fabric, data engineering on the Microsoft Azure platform. And so I guess my history, I've had a long history in IT. I've been working in IT since 1998. There was a little thing out at the time, a bit of a problem coming up called Y2K, and I got started doing desktop deployments back then. And then it's sort of been floated around for a little while doing sort of MSP type stuff and ended up in enterprise doing a bit of IT support and then moved into kind of IT service delivery and solution architecture and kind of bounced around doing that for a little bit and then finally ended up, Microsoft released a tool in 2015 that was kind of built for me. I was very much an Excel guy and a SharePoint guy, and I worked in InfoPath and all these types of sort of technologies and they released Power BI and it started off in Excel. Power Query came out in sort of Excel, and then there was this tool called Power BI Designer, and it just felt like this was the one for me. And so we got right into it and have been basically doing that ever since. So data visualization, analytics, reporting, building solutions for all sorts of different organizations of all sorts of different sizes, and just been kicking on from there, I guess.
No, that's awesome, Greg. When Matt and I started the podcast, we really wanted to help and support a lot of the community and the partners out there. And I think your company and yourself really represent a niche partner that really works a lot in the data space, which is really, Matt and I talk a lot about AI and how organizations can really leverage AI, but it's really underpinned by data, security, and what the AI has access to, if that makes sense. So have you got, I guess, some tips for organizations out there that, how can they actually get that data in the hands of the AI to be able to give, great insights back? I'm really interested in your point of view on that.
This is almost the $1 million question at the moment. And, we see all of this stuff. We're talking about AI and, AI is huge. And the questions around AI in the data community have been around for a while. Like data and AI have always been closely linked, and AI has kind of been one of those things that was a way almost to enrich data. Like we could use it to do sort of predictive analytics, and we could do these types of interesting things using AI models. But I think generative AI specifically and tools like Copilot have really changed the game in terms of the way that we think about data and what is data. And I think the really interesting thing and the shift in the way that people talk about data is that generative AI is really good with sort of text-based data. So you've got this concept of, like it can read and understand PDF documents, and it can do this kind of language-based data, and it's really good. And people are talking about data in that way. We talk about things like RAG and stuff like that, retrieval augmented generation solutions.
I'm glad that you.
Sorry about that.
Because I definitely wasn't thinking about that. I just
so these are solutions where we ask Copilot a question, it goes away and searches your SharePoint library. Is augmented, so it's retrieval augmented generation. So it's augmented by that knowledge that it pulls out of SharePoint and gives you information back, right? So that lives in sort of the document management space in a lot of ways, which is not an area that the data people are used to. Transactional data systems, your ERP systems, the numbers, the aggregation of data, the transformation of data. This is what we've been kind of talking about. And I think the big question and the thing that I think is really interesting to sort of see how this platform evolves is that data is now not only your documents in SharePoint and all that, but how do we build solutions where Copilot can ask a question like, what were my top performing salespeople last week based on their numbers, and then how does it aggregate that data? How does it pull that information out of your sales systems and then present that information back? And that is proving more challenging from a solution point of view, because the large language models, they can't do data aggregation very well. If you ask, and there's famous examples, how many letter R's in the word strawberry, if you ask ChatGPT, it says, well, there's 7 R's in strawberry. And you say, no, ask again, try again. There's all these, it doesn't do maths very well. Yeah. And I think they fixed it in 4.0. So try that now. Yeah. And so, 2 + 2 = 8 type stuff, right? And so people are saying, well, why do these language models aren't able to do math? I thought computers could do math. And it's a completely different way of kind of processing the question and understanding it and then bringing that information in. So from a data point of view, and then from a managing your data landscape, you've got this sort of text-based information in SharePoint and et cetera. And then you've got your numbers type information. And there's two kind of potential ways we need to deal with that, where you've probably seen in tools like ChatGPT, if you ask it to do advanced analytics, it creates Python code, executes the Python code, and then gives you the answer, right? Because it's really good at making code because it understands languages. And so there's almost that extra step that needs to happen. And so what we need to do from a data platform point of view is build solutions that allow us to present this information to those language models in that way. And I think, Microsoft Fabric is kind of the leading kind of the platform at the moment, with Microsoft's investing a huge amount in that. And we're seeing a lot of interesting skills coming out of that. And they've got one called AI Skills that's just come out on the Microsoft Fabric platform, where you ask a question, it converts it to a SQL query effectively, and then executes that SQL query against your back-end Fabric system. So then you can start to ask numbers-based questions as well as test-based questions against these kind of AI platform, against these data platforms. But this means that all this underpinning data is, everybody's starting to talk about all the boring stuff in data again, which is governance, security. How do we make sure that the people who have access, have correct access? How do we get it so that Copilot can't tell someone what the CEO's salary is? These are the burning questions that are starting to come out of out of organizations now.
This sounds like the era of Dear Watson. If data wasn't fun and popular,
no, that's right. Yeah. We're finally having our day. That's right.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting time, and it means that I think there's a huge amount of interest from like an executive level in building generative AI type solutions and these kind of cool AI type solutions, but they're very quickly finding out their data estate doesn't support the solutions they need. And so in terms of, what are the tips to kind of get us there? It really starts to come down to how do we organize this data and make it available to the people that need it in the way that they want it. And that comes down to building good. It actually comes down to business process, weirdly enough. So understanding the processes that you need, and this is kind of true, I think, of all kind of generative AI solutions. We're seeing a lot of process-based stuff where you have this kind of predefined process. If you understand, and I'll use an example like your sales process, for example, from end to end. So from the moment somebody contacts you all the way through to when you close a deal, and then all of the different measuring points that you need to that are across that, sort of the resources, the method, the measures that have at each step. That's where you say, well, does our data estate support that? Can we even measure these processes? Are we capturing that data? And I think that understanding of kind of process and then the underlying data that supports that is a place where people are kind of like, well, we'll just measure what we can. We'll throw all the data into Power BI and see what we can measure. It's becoming more than that now. It's now more, okay, we need to understand each of these activities and how to measure them so that we can capture appropriate data to make it available to something like generative AI to answer the questions that we want it to answer, and so it's starting to come back to this idea of understanding process and then understanding data points that we want to capture.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there as well. And I completely agree that the data is really key, and it's always really driving that. A lot of conversations that we're having at the moment. I guess question back to you. I work for another partner, Greg, and we're also seeing, I've never seen technology be rolled out or updated, and there's so much to learn at the moment. I think there's more technology to learn and grasp than probably ever before. So I'm a bit of a curious soul. How are you finding it? I was 20 minutes late.
Yes, you were, Matt, and we're never going to let you hear the end of that.
Here, I was held up, and Greg and Scott have been giving me crap for about 5 minutes before we started recording. But again, it kind of summarizes how busy it is at the moment for partners to kind of keep up to date with a lot of this stuff. So I guess how are you finding it yourself at Dear Watson from your standpoint?
Yeah, big undertaking at the moment. Like we've just gone through a certification process for all of so we're only small. There's only I've got 11 consultants, and we've mostly Power BI and data engineering type people, and then Fabric comes along, right? And so we've gone through the process just now. I think we've got 8 certified Fabric consultants. Then they literally got certified last week. They all went through the whole certification process. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and so so the learning. So that is dedicated time to learning to do these new things, and I think, and then obviously the work that I do, I'm part of the MVP program. I run the local Power BI and Fabric user group here in Melbourne. Everybody is talking about, how do I learn Fabric? How do I get my data teams up to scratch? How do I create these things that are doing that? And I think that's probably an opportunity for partners, like a bit to go out there and to help people learn this stuff, but they have to learn it themselves. So you have to dedicate time to learning to make that happen. And so very challenging. But I think that's always kind of been the way as well. I think the partners that are successful, particularly the smaller partners like me, the ones who are successful are really those people who spend all of their time basically learning. And like, I use the community type stuff that I do as an excuse to learn myself. So I run a Friday lunch and learn type thing. It's not me telling everybody, the latest thing in Fabric. It's me sitting there going, oh, let's learn how to do this. How do we do real-time insights in Fabric? Let's learn it all together. And so you create these kind of community learning programs, internal and external, in organizations. I think are really powerful ways to get people up to speed without necessarily feeling like it's, you have to spend, a whole day a week, studying or whatever it is, because it's hard to start that type of stuff. So I like kind of collaborative type learning engagements and those types of things. I think.
How do you keep your team motivated around these topics? Are they kind of self-motivated? Are they people that are really interested in Fabric? Because it's a deep technical topic, and numbers and numbers, number crunching all day can be a difficult thing to go and do. So how do you keep your team motivated to learn and keep going?
I think it's definitely true. There's a type of person that, and it's that Excel spreadsheet guru type person is the person that gravitates towards these technologies like Power BI and Fabric. And so in a lot of cases, they are pretty self-motivated. I think there's a lot of kind of fear around learning new things can be difficult, but I think that's kind of modern technology in all spaces. Like, just, look at the Power Platform, right? You've got PowerUps, Power Automate, and the evolution of Power Automate is a really interesting one. It starts off as kind of a workflow tool. Now you've got all of this RPA capability. Then you're bringing in Copilot. It's just every week almost like you've got a whole new thing. And Power BI has been on this rapid evolution with weekly releases and monthly updates. For 9 years. Like, I can't. And I've been lucky enough that I started early enough that I've managed to sort of evolve with the product over 9 years. I can't imagine what the learning curve for somebody like who was like, I'm going to become a Power BI expert today, would be like to go through and understand all of the different components. And I think the challenging thing for Fabric particularly is that it does pick from a few different disciplines. It picks from, in Power BI, you've got DAX and data visualization and Power Query and how to build these things and how to optimize and all those kind of pieces. So Fabric, like the Fabric certification, picks from that. And then it takes all of data engineering, which is medallion architectures and lake houses and data warehousing and SQL and Python and all of these things. And it mixes those two disciplines together into this kind of like incredibly kind of broad set of capabilities that if you learn this stuff, you are a superpower inside your organization, because you literally can take raw data, that's transactional data that's being doing, and then bring it through all the way through kind of extraction, curation, enrichment, modeling, creating calculations, and then into data visualization, and then creating insights for like executives and things like that, right? So a person with that single set of skills is a super, super powerful person. And so I think the incentive there is that it's a really good set of skills to have, but also, it takes a lot of enthusiasm. I think there's a really good community out there in the data space. Power BI community is one of the biggest Microsoft communities. I think like our user group's got 4,500 members in Melbourne. Like, it's amazing. Yeah. Well, I'll let them know. I'll send them an email, right? And so we get, there's a really good community out there, and I think that kind of drives. There's a good community. It's a really interesting area, and it's good for your career to learn. So I think those things kind of motivate the team in a lot of ways. And then I have an unbridled enthusiasm for it, as you probably can tell. And so, So
it's the role of the data scientist. Well, what is that role? I mean, a year or two ago, it was like, we need data scientists, right? We've got to go try and work out how to use Synapse and got to, get deep into a cave somewhere and figure out something, and then get a report for the execs at the end of it. Whether it's now, it's like, oh, hang on a minute, I can just go to ChatGPT, Copilot, and you just go, show me this data, And I'm obviously talking a bit about projects. I'll get onto it a bit later, but is the data scientist role dead, or is it, is that even more popular now? I don't know.
So demand for data engineers and data scientists is through the roof, and it's going to go on unabated for a long time. And the reason why is because they're the people, like particularly data scientists, they're the people that build the things that turn. And so yes, ChatGPT is and generative AI has removed some of that piece. People certainly talk about AI in different ways, and so in the old days, like 2 years ago, you would say, "Oh, I need a data scientist because I want to do some predictive analytics to figure out why X, Y, Z, why we're losing our customers, what's customer churn, that kind of thing." So you have specific questions that data scientists answer. Those questions are still there, and generative AI doesn't solve those questions, right? And so you still need data scientists to do that. I think the way that we use AI and the way the role of data scientists will kind of evolve. But yeah, more than ever is kind of the answer. And then data scientists and data engineers tend to get kind of lumped together in the same group. And data engineers are the people who know how to manipulate the data and bring it all in and do those pieces and the operational side of that, if you like. And a lot of data scientists are actually moving into data engineering roles because that's where the real demand is. So data science, not so much. Data engineering, huge demand because everybody wants generative AI. Nobody has good data. Let's bring all the data into a place where the generative AI can look at that data. Who do we need to do that? Data engineers. And so, yeah, they're the ones that are in massive demand and will continue for a while.
The hip role at the moment, we're seeing a lot of customer demand for that exact role ourselves. So, I can definitely see it being a good career path for a lot of people moving forward. Now, Scott, you touched on something that's very interesting in Project Sophia. I know you're very excited about this. Do you want to give our audience a bit of an overview from your perspective about what Project Sophia is? And then maybe we can ask a bit of the expert here in Greg. So, Scotty,
Yeah, good point. Good time to raise it, I think. I mean, so internally in Microsoft, we always have projects running. There's quite a few running. I'm not going to go into all the ones that I know, but Project Sophia is really interesting because it's quite a big group. It's funded under Julie Strauss. Actually, Julie's agreed to come on the future podcast to talk about it, so we'll definitely get into a lot of detail. But it's this notion of being able to use a large language model to visualize your data via basically just by asking it questions, right? And it's kind of the future for a lot of applications. Like I would see CRM dashboard and reporting probably go that way because by the nature of CRM, you're dealing with salespeople and sales managers who may not have a data background or may not be technical, and they want to be able to just say, "Hey, what's my pipeline look like? What do you predict the pipeline's going to look like in 2 years' time or a year's time? Or what should I go after?" And it delivers that, right? And so it shows a lot of promise. And it shows a new UI and a new way of working with language models, sort of actionable. But I'm really interested in, Greg, your opinion on that and where you see that going, because you guys will be, I would assume it'll roll off as a new product at some day. I mean, you don't know with projects whether the funding continues or whatnot, because they indeed are just a project. But and obviously, Julie will give us more sort of information around that. But what do you think, Greg? I mean, a language model to sort of visualize your data, is that the future? Is that what we're thinking?
I think there's an inevitable change in the way that we interact with data and actually with computers in general, right? And that is that it's going to be prompt first. I can't imagine, like if you watch Star Trek, Captain Kirk doesn't pull out a keyboard, right? No.
It'll take us long for Star Trek to come out, Greg. I was waiting.
Battlestar Galactica.
Right?
Star Trek.
In Silicon Valley right now, there's like the two camps. There's the Star Wars camp where, it's good versus evil, and there's Star Wars. And there's Star Trek where, everyone lives in peace and harmony. So, it's...
Well, I'm in the Star Trek camp in terms of human-computer interaction, right? Because of the way they interact with the computer on the deck of the Enterprise, It's like Captain Picard says, "Hey, computer, tell me something," and then it visualize, and you think about it, says, "Oh, well, there's been a breach in Sector 4 or whatever," and then they show up on the screen a data visualization of the Enterprise of Sector 4 with a big red, thing around where the data breach is. That's data visualization, right? And then here's how many, kilojoules of oxygen we've lost in the last X amount of time, So that stuff I find really fascinating, and that's the future of visualization, right? Everybody knows that that's going to be the future of data of human computer interaction, especially since generative AI came out. And so, what are the interim steps we need to take to get to that kind of future? Well, one of them is, before we can kind of just ask it, let's prompt. We write a prompt and ask a question, and then it goes away and generates a bunch of interesting insights based on its understanding of the context of the question and the data it has available to it, and then it presents information. The funny thing about Project Sophia is that we went through a process at Dear Watson. We went through a process of like, okay, let's build. Given when generative AI came out, so when ChatGPT came out, I went really deep and hard on generative AI and like build a whole bunch of GPTs myself, had a whole bunch of fun. I absolutely love the technology. And so I was like, well, what does this mean for data? Because this is a new front end. It's a new UI, right? It's a whole new experience that we need to get our head around. And we went through a bit of a UX, like I had a UX person at the time. We went through a UX process of saying, well, what would it be? Well, we'd start with a prompt and we'd ask a question, and then it would display a dashboard with a bunch of visuals and a bunch of context about what those visuals mean. And it literally was like, you could almost take the screenshots of Project Sophia, and that's what we kind of came up with in terms of like our thinking of what that would be. And so the question is, what does that mean for technologies like Power BI? In the short term, it doesn't really mean much, because I think there's a ways to go to make this technology a reality, and it'd be really interesting. Like, I'll definitely be listening to what Julie has to say about where they're up to in terms of those things. There's some really cool stuff. Project Sophia is not available in the Australian region at the moment, so it's hard to kind of play with if you're not on the inside track. But it represents a whole new UI way of doing UI, and actually I think it will affect not just the way we do things like tools like Power BI where we visualize stuff, but I think it will affect every app and potentially even Windows itself. Will our kids use keyboards in the future? How long does it take before that future is a reality? Because I find it much easier to have a conversation with ChatGPT using voice mode than I do to have prompt conversations typing away with it,
Greg, given you said the good old days 10 years ago, I kind of feel like keyboards are dead in
well, maybe. And it's not really a question of if, but when the technology catches up with it all, and we're already seeing in Windows these new Copilot plus PC, solutions coming out. Well, that's the beginning of the next generation of PCs that they're literally just going to talk to you, and you're going to be like, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah, oh no, move that. Oh, can you send an email to Scott and tell him that I'm running late?
From me.
That would have been nice, actually. I would have appreciated that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And everything sort of the dynamic with dashboard now with Copilot, you type a sentence in now and all that kind of stuff. They're starting to move towards that experience, and I think even me and Scott talk about it all the time. Some of these smaller applications are going to be replaced by Copilot and just typing stuff in, or you can use voice to basically book a leave request, to book a travel form, all of this kind of stuff. So I can definitely see that shift pushing. I got a bit of a curveball question here. So we're all about talking and asking questions. How is that going to impact working at the office, but everyone is just talking at their computers the whole time? And what is that change management process going to look like? Yeah, are we all going to be in these little silent rooms like this?
Cool question.
You know what I mean? Like, what does that look like? Yeah.
We're back in the booth, cone of silence. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Everyone's going to be talking. Everyone's going to be like,
that's a really interesting
question. Back, get smart. That's get smart, isn't it? Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, are we one of these little tubes in the office and just like waving at each other like that, and we just communicate at the lunchroom? And
actually, if you've been, Matt, if you've been to the Microsoft office in Sydney and other offices around, there is the phone booth. You know the phone booth I'm talking about, right? It's this little time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the future of work.
Yeah. Well, that's right. I've got a voice that goes across the room, right? And so, but I think we've already seen a shift to that, and I know it was driven by the pandemic and all the rest of it, but like even the types of conversations we have now and the way that they're augmented by AI is totally different to the way that we were working, pre-pandemic, right? And so, and what generative AI is doing, and like I'm sure you guys have played with Copilot, integration with Teams when you're in a meeting like the difference between having to sit there, and Matt, you'll know as a partner person, right? You're sitting there in the old days, you sit there and you're furiously, like, you get an expert, you're talking and being engaged with the customer, and you're typing away on your thing at the same time, and you become like this amazing note taker, and you take all these ridiculously abbreviated notes because a customer will give you so much information. In the data world, like the first meeting with a customer, they go blah, 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 like they download a huge amount of information in a short amount of time, and then they expect you to remember that throughout the rest of the the engagement, and often you'd be you're coming back and forth and clarifying and re-clarifying. Well, now with Copilot integration, like you hit record, I just say, is it okay if we record? Yep, great. And then I'm fully engaged with the people that I'm talking to. I don't have to worry about notes, and then the transcript comes through. I can get action items. I can get all the things that I promised halfway through the meeting that I would normally forget about. They come through. Oh, don't forget that you told him that you were going to build a whole fabric solution, like that kind of stuff. That I love, and I think that change we're going to, and so that means it's better to have a Teams meeting than to do it in person in a lot of ways these days, because the team meeting records when Greg was talking, when Matt was talking, when Scott was talking. If you all sit in the same room, it's just a blob of people who spoke, and we don't remember who.
Mind you, I'm trialing this new voice identification feature in Teams, which kind of knows who you are by your voice patterns.
Yeah. So that's the next generation. Yeah.
So. Yeah. That's so that's how you get Copilot in a room working, because you're right. Otherwise, everyone just comes through as unknown. You don't know who's who. But here's the problem. Here's the problem I've got with that, right? And I get it in your context, right? You guys are going in, it's a consulting engagement, and you need to get facts because you're going to go in action and then you're going to deliver something. Well, my team's going in, they're going in before customers decide to buy anything. And people buy off people. It's the relationships that they build. It's the trust. And you just can't do that behind a screen. It's really difficult to do that. And so we always have this tension, right, with my team going, okay, customer selected a partner now, and we've gone through 6 months, maybe even 12 months, maybe even a year and a half of pre-sales, and they've told us all this stuff. And now partner needs to come in and quote in 2 weeks.
Customer doesn't get back.
You know what I mean? It's like,
and they told you I need this right now. So and
it's really difficult. So, but a lot of times we'll go to a customer. We'll go, customer, can you please integrate with a partner from day one or day 7 or something? Oh no, we can't do that. Our process doesn't allow it. Or no, we need to go through a partner selection, and we just can't do it. So. So I'm sort of torn now, where I love a Teams meeting for all the things you've just said, but I also love my team getting in front of a customer and just really solving shit on a whiteboard, right? Like just really.
There's still the need for those.
And there's
anytime soon. Yeah, that's
that mix is
Microsoft
really good.
whiteboard.
So obviously, it's got to be a Microsoft whiteboard. It's got to be digital. Yeah, I'm not talking.
No, you're totally. There's no substitute, and even like in the data space, we're lucky that we can work remotely a lot of the time. Like a lot of my team are remote. We spend very little time in the office, but there is no substitute for being able to sit down with a person side by side when you're working on a report and being able to say, oh, what does this mean? What do you mean when you say total sales? Like, is that your total volume, your total cost, your total this, your total that? Like those little questions, you don't have to book a half an hour Teams meeting to have, key conversations with customers. So there's going to be a balance for sure.
I wonder if the future is that we're going into, as we all get kind of naturally lazier with this technology, that we're all going to have, Facebook glasses on. Just recording.
HoloLens.
Whatever it is.
I'm not sure about that either.
Let's make an announcement. I hope not. I have no idea.
I have no
idea the future of HoloLens. There's no announcement.
Still committed to the future of HoloLens, Scott.
Thanks. Yeah. Someone from HoloLens will email me, no doubt. But look, I think the future is some sort of headwear that you jump in a meeting, so you can have the best of both worlds. You can, But then, how do we feel about recording everyone when we're in a meeting as well? Like there's no. So then you kind of have the professional conversation. Then you go, let's go get a coffee. I'll turn off the glasses, and now let's talk about some of the problems you didn't want to talk about in the group. It's going to be a weird engagement model. I think it's going to take humans a while to figure this stuff out. But the benefit of a recorded conversation is all.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. So, Greg, what's next? What's next for Dear Watson? Where do you want to take the company? we love your work. The engagement you do with customers is amazing. You guys have deep knowledge on this stuff. This, like I said right at the beginning of the podcast, if we ever thought there was going to be a tech wave where data was going to be king, this is kind of it, right? Like this is the moment where, where if customers don't have their data right, they don't get AI right. So, and security as well, of course, but the data's the one. So so what's the future for you guys?
So we're big on, like I said, we've just gone through the process of getting a whole bunch of Fabric certified engineers ready and waiting to happen, and so we're committed to that Fabric piece. We see that as a key piece going forward. But like you say, everything data going forward, whether that's on other platforms as well. But so that's what I'm really doing, and like the things like Sophia just kind of reinforced to me that potentially data visualization, the front end piece is going to taper off over time. Over the next few years, I expect front end visualization type solutions they're going to be more and more automated. You're going to be asking questions. It's going to snap up a graph of whatever you need, and so there's going to be less need for us to have those dedicated front end building people. So I've said to all my front end developers, learn Fabric. Let's start learning data engineering. That's where the demand is in the area. So we're trying to build a lot of capability in that place. In the immediate future, we're doing Fabric in a day type training sessions, so one-to-many Fabric in a day training sessions for data teams to learn Fabric. So that's the first piece, and that's structured Microsoft content. You get a lab, you get to see all the different features of Fabric, you get to play with it with a fully licensed experience using Copilot and all the rest of it, which is great. So we've got that relationship with Microsoft to do those, and then the next thing we're working on beyond that is like a Fabric Jumpstart program where we're bringing data teams up to speed in how to use. What's the best way to use Fabric? How do we implement things like CI/CD and DevOps type scenarios? How do we set up that environment to make it as good as it can be? And so we see this as like the kind of early stages of getting the platform ready, and then an advisory service over governance and security and building data culture, and what is that going to turn into, and how is generative AI going to interact with these data platforms? And so what do we need to do in those spaces? I think there's still a little bit up in the air with that. We're waiting for some stuff like AI skills from Fabric to come out so that we know we have more solid solutions around that. But that's the kind of the future. And we see a lot of opportunity there. We're hoping for that a lot of organizations are going to be going in this direction. So people are paying attention. It's good.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think if you're a customer listening to this right now and you want your data in trusted hands and you want some advisory around, what you should do moving forward, you should look Greg up.
Easy to find on LinkedIn. Power BI Unicorn is probably the easiest way to find me. So there's only one.
You are world renowned. You are world renowned.
World renowned. And he's part of the founding members of the Ballarat Tech Hub.
That's right.
That everyone's sort of talking about.
It's hot.
It's hot right now. I can tell you.
Scott live in Ballarat.
Yeah.
We've got one of my team members over there. We've got someone else living over there. It's going to be the new Silicon Valley.
It is. So if you're in Ballarat, look out.
Yeah. Well, I'm the CEO of the Microsoft office of Ballarat.
Like it.
If anyone wants to venture into the hottest tech town in the country,
bring a jumper.
Bring a jumper.
Like I say, it's cold over in winter.
It's the Bulldogs' home ground, though, Matt. So that should give it.
It is. I'm a big fan of Ballarat. Yeah. I actually attended a football game last year with a broken toe, Scott. If you remember,
I remember that.
I managed to come see you in Ballarat and watch the footy game together. Hobbled around with a broken toe, so that was good times. But a beautiful place, and like I say, it's good that the tech community there is being led by Scott and Greg. I think that's really good. So
it's thriving. Yeah. Oh well, thanks, Greg, for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Love your work. Love your knowledge on this stuff. I always learn a lot. I've learned a lot today, and hopefully our listeners did as well. So, and you are definitely the number one guy when it comes to data. That's for sure. And on the speaker circuit
Thanks, mate.
as well.
Appreciate it.
We will catch up with you for a beer shortly.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Matt.
See ya.
Welcome to Powertime. Welcome to Powertime.
Hey everyone, I'd just like to say a big thank you for listening into our podcast today. Just a quick note, everything that we talk about today is the point of view of Scott and Matt and not the point of view of Microsoft or NCS. And also, if you get some time, please click follow on this podcast and also go ahead and follow our LinkedIn page and sign up for our newsletter, and we'll send out some interesting news over the next 6 months. But again, thank you for your time and listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it.